Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 13 of the Tiny Wanderland. My name is Jay. I am your host. I am the co-creator of the Tiny Wanderer, and we are now on part 13 of the backstory, and we are journeying to Arizona. So in this episode, we're going to make it from Utah down to Arizona. Beautiful, beautiful place we're going to arrive at called Sedona, one of my favorite places in the whole world. Don't spend nearly about as much time as I'd like to there. And then down over the mountain and then down to Prescott Valley, where we will meet up with Karl Kunsman. A little background on Karl Kunsman. I met him in Phoenix a few years ago. He is just he's one of those guys that knows everything in his head, but doesn't always execute it in person. And I'll explain more about that later. I'll also explain a little bit more about Karl and what makes him so unique. We'll also get into that. But let's go ahead and start off right now. Let's just jump into it. So the thing about traveling is you cannot do it unless you have the essential music, which we had 120 gigs of music in Maggie. So we traveled from Utah. We got a good early start after breakfast, and soon we noticed that the outside temperature was 100 degrees, and you guessed it. Where else is it 100 degrees in July? If you said Arizona, then you were correct. Arizona. So we are now in Arizona, and we are headed down, down, down until we arrived in Sedona. Now, we got into Sedona just about sunset, and if you've ever been to Sedona, you know how beautiful it is. If you've ever been into Sedona during sunset, you know how really beautiful it is. I took Heather up to what was called the Airport Vortex, and as usual, the parking lot was jammed with hippies and people doing, ritual seances, and there was a guy with a didgeridoo up there, and so we drove up past the airport. We paid to park in the parking lot. And then we unloaded Little Coo and we drove down, all the way down the airport road back to the Vortex, where we were able to find a parking spot for Little Coo because she's just a dirt bike. She's really small. So these are some pictures of the sunset in Arizona. And I guess this is a picture of me and Heather attempting to reach our inner zen here. And then we drove up we went down through Sedona, we drove up through Cottonwood and then Jerome. And if you've ever been to Jerome, it's supposed to be like a ghost. It's supposed to be a place where ghosts exist. I've never seen a ghost there myself, but I have spent some time in Jerome, and it is a pretty cool city. It sits kind of really, really high up the mountain. And then when we woke up the next morning, we were in Prescott Valley, Arizona. Now, you may remember the bus that we saw in the video, in the previous episode that was traveling. I don't remember what it was traveling to. This is not that bus. This is one of Karl's many, many projects, and he had a few of them. And Karl has a very interesting sense of humor. And this is Karl's kitchen. This is Oingo. Oingo is Karl's parrot, and if you think Karl's strange, then you don't know. Oingo is just as strange, if not more strange. Just down the street from Karl's was a horse ranch where Karl kept two horses. It's kind of a communal ranch where a lot of the people in the area keep their horses. Karl's horses were Echo and Joey. However, we did run into another horse called Hawk. And Hawk really, really, really liked me and Heather. I think he really liked me the most. And whenever I went near his pen, he would follow me. So it was cool to get away and see the horses. That's Karl, by the way. I don't remember what horse he's feeding here. I want to say this is Echo. It may be Joey. And we're going to talk a little bit about more Karl in a second here. That's me with Hawk. And that horse was just totally in love with me. And there's some more horses, and these two goats, I don't remember their names, but they were fighting, and Heather actually has a video clip which we'll post later of them fighting, believe it or not. They were actually literally fighting in their pen. I don't know what they were fighting over, but they were fighting. That's Hawk watching me leave, and there's Karl feeding one of the horses. I think that's Hawk. That's me on one of Karl's farm trucks. He had several farm trucks. Cannot see exactly. Oh, that's looks like some donkeys at another farm, a local farm. So that's it, guys. It's a really short episode. We are now safely ensconced in Prescott Valley, Arizona on what is known as the bunker. And I will go ahead and spend a couple minutes explaining to you a little bit about Karl. His background is kind of vague. Where he comes from, what he's about is kind of, I wouldn't say it's like the stuff of secrecy. It's just not something I remember a lot of. Karl is I believe he's a former engineer. I don't know for sure, but I think he might have worked for NASA at one time. I'm not 100% sure of that. The issue with Karl that we would find out more and more is that he thinks everyone's out to get him, and it's really all about kind of what's in it for Karl. So here we were, two people who had just interrupted our vacation to go build a tiny home on his land, and his dad was very, very sick at the time that we were visiting. In fact, we never saw his dad once because his dad was in a local nursing home because he'd gotten really, really sick, and they wouldn't let anyone, not even Karl, into the nursing home because of the whole COVID thing. So I didn't get to see Robert. I will tell you this, Karl and Robert are extremely diehard Trump supporters. They think that the world is coming to an end. Somewhere on Karl's property is an underground bunker with 15 years worth of food, gas, water, and medical supplies. The rumor is that he went all the way to Phoenix, and he actually enlisted the help of some Mexicans outside of a Home Depot, and he blindfolded them on his property, and they were paid in cash. So they don't even know where they were or what exactly they were doing, and he would use different people for different parts of the work. Now, that just kind of sets you up a little bit about Karl, and we'll talk more about that as we get further into this. But for now, the trailer is safely at Karl's. The tent has been removed from the top of Maggie and is now on. When I say on a roof, I need to elaborate a little bit. Karl, if you guys have ever seen the episode, the show Sanford and Sons, okay, Sanford and Sons is a good example. Karl and his dad, they collect things. When I say they collect things, I mean they go ahead and they'll go to estate sales and they'll buy like one thing, and the guy's like, if you just buy this, you buy everything, and they'll just fill their yard up with just stuff. Now, the only person that knows where the stuff is Karl. So like if you say, oh, I need a bottle jack, he says, okay, that's walk past the two broken cars and the toilet and take a left at the couch and then go buy the old water pump, but the thing is, Karl had a lot of stuff, but most of it was junk. It just didn't work. So, he might, oh, wow, he's got this, and you think that's cool, and then you find out that it's like 20 years old and doesn't even work. So, you go buy a new part. Karl lived just down the street from a place called U Pickett, where me and Heather would end up spending a lot of time in future episodes. And it's a junkyard basically where you go pick out your own parts. And in the back of the junkyard was an RV section, like it's called the RV Boneyard. And that's where we're going to learn a little bit more about that. I think it's coming up in the next episode where we're going to see some action from that. Little Koo was doing really good. We decided to give her an oil change, and we put her, again, this is where Karl's like, I have a bike stand. So where? Well, he couldn't tell me where it was. And sometimes getting Karl to do something can take a long time. So if you go at Karl's pace, the Tiny Wanderer probably would have been built in 2 years, if at all. Another thing is Karl liked to tell you about how to do something. He even liked to tell you if you were doing it wrong. But when it came time for Karl to actually do work and show you how to do it, that's when we kind of saw that the conversation, I guess the words were there, but the actions were not. And that would lead to a really horrible, life-threatening confrontation down the road, because we came to a point where we were just literally spinning our wheels. The trailer was torn apart. We had all these ambitions, but Karl was not motivated to go forward with the project. And eventually confrontation ensued, and we'll get into that in another episode. For now, I'm going to leave you with a clip from part 14. And when we were trying, I believe in this clip, we were trying to change the oil. We were trying to tighten the chain on the dirt bike, and we put the bike up on top of a floor jack, and it slipped. The floor jack slipped, and she fell down again, as she's fallen many times, and this time she snapped her clutch lever off. Well, in this clip, you're seeing Karl actually finding a way to meld the metal back. And this did eventually snap, but it wasn't for months later. But I'll let you guys know more about that in part 14. For now, just enjoy the clip. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you guys soon in episode 14 of the Tiny Wanderland. See you then. This thing has been through so much. We started with trying to tighten the chain, and now we're bending the clutch lever back because the jack slipped, and well, the clutch lever did a...
Because you weren't holding the bike like you were supposed to.
Will that still be maintaining its strength? Or lack of?
You'll find out.
The hard way.